You found Ask Alice, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the societal currents shaping our lives. I'm your host, Alice, and together we'll explore the often unseen forces at play. We'll examine cutting-edge research, dissect the data, and most importantly, if you're seeking to understand what's shaping our society,
let's unpack this. We're
this is
diving
the
into these
place.
sources you've provided about a pretty remarkable moment, June 2025.
Yeah, remarkable and definitely contentious.
President Trump ordering National Guard troops into L.A. and Governor Newsom explicitly saying no.
Right, that kind of direct federal-state clash over the Guard. We haven't really seen that for, 6 decades?
Exactly. So our mission here is to pull out the key bits from these articles and notes, really understand this unusual situation.
Well, the first thing jumping out from your sources is how it all started, or rather, how it escalated. It began with federal ICE raids in L.A.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and those raids led to quite a few arrests.
Over 100, according to the materials, and that sparked protests, pretty significant ones.
Okay, and the sources describe those protests getting pretty heated, clashes with federal agents.
Definitely. Reports of, rocks being thrown, and I think a vehicle was set on fire at one point.
Wow. And federal agents responded with tear gas, flashbangs.
Yeah, crowd dispersal tactics. And this is where the federal narrative really takes shape.
How so?
The administration, including the president, used really strong language, calling the protests violent, a form of rebellion.
Even insurrectionist mobs, I see that noted here.
Exactly. And citing that, plus the need to protect federal personnel and property, that was the justification for authorizing the National Guard.
Up to 2,000 troops authorized. But the sources suggest the actual number deployed under federal control was smaller.
Around 300 California National Guard troops, yeah. Federalized, meaning they answer to the president, not the governor.
And they were sent to specific federal spots, right? Like the Metropolitan Detention Center downtown.
That seems to be the main focus, yes. And sources say clashes continued nearby, more tear gas used by law enforcement there.
But their stated role, it wasn't direct policing of civilians, more like support.
Right, protecting federal agents, guarding federal property, that seems key.
Which suggests they were trying to navigate the legal lines, like the Posse Comitatus Act.
Yeah, it looks that way. That act generally restricts using the military for domestic law enforcement.
And crucially, the Insurrection Act wasn't invoked here, which is another, maybe more direct way to deploy troops domestically.
Correct. So that framing support, protection, avoiding the Insurrection Act seems like a deliberate strategy highlighted in your sources. Asserting power, but maybe trying to stay within a certain legal interpretation.
Okay, but here's where it gets really, really interesting. This state's reaction. Governor Newsom.
Oh, absolutely explosive reaction. He didn't mince words at all.
The sources quote him calling it unlawful, purposefully inflammatory, a spectacle.
And a serious breach of state sovereignty. His core argument was basically, we have this under control.
He said local law enforcement could handle it. There was no unmet need for federal troops.
And even went further, accusing the federal government of trying to, quote, manufacture a crisis.
Politically motivated, essentially.
Yeah.
And the mayor of L.A., Karen Bass.
She echoed those concerns, called it a chaotic escalation, likely to create fear.
So you've got this complete clash of narratives. Federal side, rebellion. State side, manufactured crisis.
Which leads us right into the legal fight described in your sources.
Yeah, the sources really focus on this specific federal law, 10 U.S.C., Section 12406.
Right, a statute that's not used very often. It allows deploying the Guard for things like invasion or, crucially here, rebellion, or if federal laws can't be executed.
And the administration explicitly used that rebellion language, framing the protests as a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States.
But here's the legal sticking point, the real nub of the dispute from your sources. That statute, Section 12406, includes a phrase.
The part that says orders shall be issued through the governors of the states.
Exactly, and that's where the interpretations just completely split.
California argued that through the governors means you need their consent, or at least you have to consult them properly.
Right.
Which they say didn't happen.
Right, but the federal government, by acting without that consent, seemed to interpret that phrase very differently.
More like just an administrative step. Like the order gets routed via the governor's office, but they don't get a veto.
That seems to be the implication of their actions, yeah. A fundamentally different reading of those few words. That's central in your materials.
And historically, the sources bring up a parallel, don't they?
They do. The big one is 1965, Alabama. President Johnson federalizing the Alabama National Guard against Governor Wallace's wishes.
To enforce civil rights laws, desegregation. That's seen as the last time this happened so directly, a president overriding a governor with their own guard.
But your sources also draw a contrast.
Right. Back then, in the 50s and 60s, it was about enforcing fundamental constitutional rights. Here, in 2025, it was about quelling protests against federal policies, specifically ICE actions.
Which probably explains why the reactions outlined in your sources were so sharply divided. It fell along pretty predictable political lines.
The Trump administration, supporters talking law and order, saying the state and city weren't doing enough.
While Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, Democrats, civil liberties groups like the ACLU, Amnesty International, they slammed it.
Calling it an abuse of power, political theater, dangerous. One source even quotes someone calling it a declaration of war on all Californians. Strong stuff.
Very strong. It really shows the deep political fault lines beneath the legal arguments.
So, bringing this all together for you, the listener, what does this deep dive tell us?
Well, it really throws a spotlight on a major friction point in American federalism, that constant push and pull between federal power and state power.
Especially when it comes to using military forces inside the country.
Right. For you, it demonstrates how these aren't just abstract legal debates, different interpretations of law, clashing political goals. They have real impacts on the ground for communities, for safety, for trust in institutions.
This incident, as laid out in the sources, feels like a significant assertion of federal authority in a way we haven't seen for a long time. It could potentially set precedents.
Absolutely. How this specific conflict plays out could shape how future presidents handle domestic unrest or disagreements with states over federal actions.
So the fact that this deployment happened directly against the governor's will wasn't just politics.
No, it digs into fundamental questions. Who actually controls a state's National Guard when push comes to shove? Under what specific conditions can the federal government step in with military force overriding a state?
And the final thought we want to leave you with, based on all this, could incidents like this one fundamentally change that balance? Could it reshape the relationship between states and the federal government when it comes to keeping order and enforcing federal law domestically? Something to think about.